Okay, this is a screencast to show you how to take categorical data from a spreadsheet and turn it into a two-way table. Two-way tables are really useful for analyzing your categorical data and then perhaps using them to create some graphs that show your data in a meaningful way. And they're actually pretty simple to create. It's all about setting them up correctly. First of all, I want to identify my categorical data. And here I can see that these two columns are my categorical data. You might have more. In this case, I have two. And one of them is here, do you have a curfew, a set time when your parents expect you to be in bed on weekdays? And the other one is here, do you have chores at home? I know this is categorical data because my answers are not numerical. Over here we have numerical data, but here we have yes or no as my possible answers. Perhaps you have more than yes, no. You might have yes, no, maybe, or some variation on that. But clearly it's not numerical, so it is categorical data. And we can use a two-way table to analyze that a little bit more. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my table. And this is really the key part to this whole process. So I'm going to take my first question, do you have a curfew? And I'm going to break that down into the possible answers. And I'm going to put those right here. Have a curfew, those would be my yeses, and don't have a curfew. Those would be my no's. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my other one, right here. Do you have chores at home? And these went horizontally, so they are going to be recorded in columns. I'm going to put these into rows. And we're actually making something that you could define as a matrix, if any of you are familiar with a matrix, but we'll just call it a two-way table at this point. So I have chores at home and don't have chores at home. And if we had more, we'd add more to them, but these are really the areas that I've covered. And the next thing you're going to want to do, and this is just to make sure that your two-way table is distinct from the rest of your spreadsheet, highlight this area and go up here to borders and add borders to it. You can get fancy with the color of the border if you want. Like I can make mine blue if I'd like. You can even change the line style, but I'm going to stick with this. That works pretty well for me. So there's my border, and that just kind of makes it set itself off a little bit. Okay, next step. I'm going to break each of these down. So I'm going to look at my ones that say they have a curfew, right? So have a curfew. Let's see. Those are all my yeses. Well, let's see how many of those there are. Keep going, keep going, keep going, right down to there. Those are all my yeses. Now, I can't just use this number here, the row number, to tell me how many I have because I have this row up here, the header row. Now, what I can do is I know that that is row 1, so I can subtract 1 from that in the end to know that I've done it correctly. And what I like to do is I like to put my total in. 27 yeses total. Now, look what I'm going to do. I'm not going to actually put it here in the table. I'm going to stick it down here at the bottom. I'm going to write 27. What I'm doing that is I know that this number plus this number has to equal 27. Otherwise, I've missed something. I'm going to go to don't have a curfew. Those are my no's. They're right here. And I have 28 through 46. Let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 of them. And I'll put those in right here. 19. Boom. So that's my total that don't have a curfew. So I know whatever number I put in this column or in this cell plus whatever number I put in this cell is going to equal 27. And I know that this one plus this one is going to equal 19. Just a way to keep me honest with my numbers. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the ones that have chores. So have a curfew and have chores. That means it was a yes and a yes. Well, let's see how many said yes here. Scrolling down, I get up to 21 here. I remember I have to subtract 1 from that. So 21 minus 1 is 20. So number that had a curfew and had chores is 20. And then that don't have chores at home, I can actually just do the subtraction. 27 minus 20 should give me 7. I'm going to go over to my data to double check that. How many said yes and then no? That's right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Uh-oh, I messed up. Something's off here. So, I know what it is. I shouldn't have 27 there. I should have 26. Messed up in the very beginning. So 26, and this should be 6. There we go. 20 and 6. Now we go over to don't have a curfew. For those that don't have a curfew, that's this area here. Let's see how many said yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 that don't have a curfew also had chores. Interesting. There's seems like a few less. And then those who did, it should be just a few. Don't have a curfew, don't have chores. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4. 4. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can add these up. 20 plus 15 is 35, and 6 plus 4 is 10. 35 plus 10 should give me 45. 26 plus 19 should also give me 45, does it? It's a great way to add this up. 26 plus 19, 36, 40. Yep, sure enough, 45. So these numbers out here allow me to check everything. All right. Now, we've got our table set up. What can we do with it? Well, one thing you can do is you can turn these into percentages. You can find out what percentage of the kids who had a curfew also had chores. So if 26 of the kids who had a curfew also had chores, well, what I'd actually do is I'd copy this table and I'd paste it beneath here and turn this one into a percentage table. And maybe we would write that in here. Percentages. And then this one is just raw data. And 20 out of the 26 kids who have a curfew also had to do chores. So I can turn that into a percentage. My total was 26. And I can do equals 20 divided by 26. Gives me this. And if I want to, well, actually I'm going to do that here. Now this is equals 6 divided by 26. Here we've got those kids who don't have a curfew and had chores. There's 19 kids altogether, right, who didn't have a curfew. And so this would be equals 15 divided by 19. And this equals 4 divided by 19. Now, I can format these into percentages. If I go to format, I can format my number, and I can turn it into, let's go with percent. There we go. So now those are turned into percentages. And this gives us something to look at. These percentages are really interesting. It turns out that a slightly lower percentage of kids who have a curfew have chores than those that don't have a curfew. Not what I expected. I thought that kids who had a curfew would be more likely to have chores. In fact, it's the opposite. Although these percentages are really close, so just an observation is really similar. Let's look at this. Don't have chores at home. Or kids who have curfew, 23% of them didn't have chores. 21% of those who don't have a curfew also don't have chores. Again, really similar. So I can have a conclusion about this. What I found is that overall, having a curfew has very little connection to whether kids have chores at home. Okay, they are nearly the same. Let me spell overall correctly. So this is one way for you to understand how you can go from the raw data here to a percentage table and draw some conclusions from it. You probably could have drawn those conclusions from this as well, but sometimes putting into percentages helps. Now, one thing I could do is I could graph these. I could make a pie chart out of the have a curfew area and a pie chart out of the don't have a curfew area. There's tons of stuff I can do with it to display my data differently. Hopefully this helps you learn how to create a two-way table.